Hello, this presentation is on developing a high-quality transition plan. It is brought to you by the Fulton County Schools Transition Services team. Our agenda today. Please take a few seconds to review the agenda for yourself. This presentation will answer any questions you may have regarding the basics of transition planning. It is recommended that you have the SEC User Guide readily available to reference throughout this presentation. You can refer to your SEC User Guide after you complete this presentation for additional guidance. Before we begin, please take a moment to review the learning objectives. These are typical norms that you would see during a formal SEC meeting. However, we will move past this as this is a recorded module for you to move through at your own pace. The case managers are responsible for completing and updating the transition plan. The purpose of the transition plan is to prepare students for their post-secondary journey. Their academic goals and objectives should align with the goals and activities created in the transition plan. Transition planning has not always been a part of the IEP process. Now, it's the law. When you think of transition services, one must think beyond high school to post-school environments. This may be a 2-year or 4-year college, a job, or a day program. In addition, where will the student reside? On their own, in a college dorm, or possibly at home with family or friends? In order to successfully transition a student from school to post-school options, multiple sources must be considered. What are the sources you should consider when planning for a student's transition? This section states the purpose of special education and includes preparing for further education, employment, and independent living as part of a free and appropriate public education, or FAPE. Please take a minute to review this slide. This slide highlights the components of transition services and all the pieces that go into transition services. One very important component to keep in mind is that it's imperative that the student attends the meeting to provide input. The meeting is about the student and their future. It takes a village. The collaboration should be between the student, family, school staff, and outside agencies. For the student, the transition plan is centered around the student's strengths, interests, and preferences. For family, the question is, how can they support the student in achieving their goals? School staff will collaborate, implement, and monitor progress on goals. Support services are provided by outside agencies that can support post-secondary goals. The Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency provides post-secondary employment, work skills, and independent living skills training. The Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities provides NowComp waivers, supported employment, access to day programs, community access, family support services, respite care, and therapies. Think about the student now, think about the student at graduation age, and also as a 25-year-old. Where do you see the student at those stages? Think about a transition plan for a student you are currently working with and answer these questions above. The projected date of graduation is 4 years after the student has entered high school. There are 2 diploma types, high school diploma and Georgia State defined alternate diploma. Graduation requirements must be explained to the parents. There should be discussion and documentation of any additional school system graduation requirements. Collaboration is key. Reach out to the student's counselor for additional guidance. This process is collaborative as the IEP team should explain graduation requirements to parents and record any additional district graduation requirements. The alternate diploma is the document awarded to students with the most significant cognitive disabilities who were assessed using the alternate assessment assigned to alternate academic achievement standards. While this diploma is standards-based and aligned with the state requirements for the regular high school diploma, it is not a regular high school diploma. Therefore, an alternate diploma does not terminate free and appropriate public education, FAPE, for students with an individualized education program, IEP. The requirements for the alternate diploma are the same requirements these students currently meet to obtain a regular diploma. For post-secondary and transition opportunities, many of those institutions will still allow it for transition opportunities and, like with a regular diploma, there would be admissions criteria for post-secondary institutions. Transition assessments should be age-appropriate and an ongoing process of collecting data on the individual's needs, preferences, and interests. Informal assessments may be given at any time. Formal assessments should take place every other year. Results should also be documented with the date the assessment was administered. There are an array of assessments to assess transition needs for students. We have a link located within the SDI handbook on the main page of the SEC portal that lists examples of formal and informal assessments, the area assessed, assessment type, and a link to assessments. Formal assessments should be completed every other year. Informal assessments can be completed on alternate years. 2 formal and 2 informal assessments should be completed at minimum during a student's high school years. We are only focusing on areas that are going well for students and what they like. It is a summary of the student's interests based in these areas. Make sure the student's course of study connects to her intended plan after graduation. Here you can see non-examples that are too basic and do not directly connect to Mary's course of study. A course of study is a multi-year description of coursework to achieve the student's desired post-secondary goals, from the student's current to anticipated exit year. A course of study is not just a statement or a list of courses students have already taken. Write courses based on what your school currently offers. Think about courses that will support for post-secondary outcomes. Consult with your student's counselor for additional guidance on course offerings. We can no longer put high school diploma as the course of study. The course of study must include specific courses linked to the post-secondary goal. A course of study is a multi-year description of coursework to achieve the student's desired post-school goals, from the student's current to anticipated exit year. A course of study is not just a statement or a list of courses already taken. Write courses based on what your school currently offers. Think about courses that will support the student toward successful post-secondary outcomes. Consult with your student's counselor for additional guidance on course offerings. Note how each of the examples begins with after graduation, indicating these are the post-secondary goals that the student and the IEP team have set based on the transition assessments and information given during the planning process. For the non-examples, please note the use of wishes and hopes does not specifically state what the student will do. It is also important to note that starting, enrolling, etc. do not specify a desired outcome. Again, note the use of the words after graduation in the examples, and the specific field area is included. The non-examples use words like wishes and wants. Remember, post-secondary SMART goals should not be temporary or while the student is in high school. A post-secondary outcome goal for independent living should be written if it is necessary for the student to acquire skills to be able to live independently, or if other living arrangements are required. If any information is entered here other than not applicable, or a statement that negates the need for a goal, then the team is required to write an annual measurable transition IEP goal for adult living skills and post-school options and/or daily living skills. See Participation Guide, Independent Living Assessment Worksheet. The transfer of rights form must be completed prior to the IEP meeting, where transfer of rights will be explained to student and family. Refer to pages 56 and 57 in the SEC Campus User Guide. At age 18, students become their own educational decision makers unless a court decides they are not able to make these decisions. Districts may also inform parents of other options or about where to get more information about guardianships, powers of attorney, and any other options. For example, it may be that for some students, a guardianship or more limited form of transfer of rights would be necessary. Beginning at age 18, the district is to send all notices to both the parent and the student, but the student will provide informed written consent for any action requested by the district. When the student turns 18, he or she becomes the educational decision maker. But while the student is eligible under the IDEA, the parents retain the rights to all notices of meetings, notices of change in program or placement, and notices of evaluations. A SMART goal is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. The activities are the steps that students complete to achieve the SMART goal. Activities. When thinking of activities, ponder on all the activities that must take place in order for the student to achieve the goal. The activities are the steps that students complete to achieve a SMART goal. If someone or an agency is listed and discussion of that agency is for a payment of service, then ensure that the person or agency is invited to the IEP meeting. Education and employment post-secondary goals and transition goals are required for compliance. If the student needs an independent living post-secondary goal, then at least one of the following transition goals are required: community participation, adult living and post-school options, related services, or daily living skills. IRR students, by state regulations, are only required to have goals in the first two domains, education and employment. It is the case manager's responsibility to assess the student to determine if the student needs any additional goals. Activities support the goal. Here is an example of education training activities. Activities support the SMART goal. Here are some examples and non-examples of employment activities. Community participation goals are not required, but should be addressed based on student need. The community participation goal can be school or community-based. These goals are intended to promote self-advocacy. Goals in this area address skills students need to learn and practice in order to become a successful independent adult. Please read the example goal with activities. Daily living skills. Goals in this area are related to what the student will do to increase independence in daily aspects of life. They are typically used for low incidence and students with intellectual disabilities. Related services are the supports such as psychology, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, assistive technology that are needed for students to access more integrated work, education, and living environments. Transition services and activities for CTI students. Consult with your CTI teachers for additional guidance on how to appropriately support CTI students with their post-secondary goals. A resource is included in the SDI handbook that provides examples of CTI post-secondary and outcome goals and transition services and activities for students enrolled in CTAE pathways. The transition plan is updated annually or as needed. The progress of the transition goal should be updated every progress reporting period. Also, progress of activities should be included in present levels of academic achievement and functional performance. Case managers should ask themselves these questions while preparing for an IEP where transition will be discussed. Thank you for your active participation and engagement in this session. Above is a list of the transition services teachers for all schools. Please contact your local transition services teacher if you have any follow-up questions or need additional support. Please utilize your phone or computer to complete this survey to assist us with improving our professional development. It is our goal to be a support to you, so please be as honest as possible. Thank you again for your time today.